Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to your channel The Anatomy Canvas. In today's class of histology of the nervous system, we are going to describe the histological features of the cerebral cortex, to discuss the different types of the cerebral cortex and discuss all the cell types present in cerebral cortex in detail. So first, cerebral cortex is that the cerebral hemisphere consists of convoluted cortex of the gray matter overlying the central medullary mass of the white matter. So in this diagram you can see this is the outer convoluted darker color area is the gray matter and inner lighter color area is the white matter. The gray matter consists of the neuronal cell bodies and their dendritic interconnections and glial cells, also called the neuropil. The white matter conveys fibers between different parts of the cortex and from other parts of the CNS. So the cortex is a thin layer of the neurons and their interconnections, measuring few millimeters and contain 30 billion neurons. The evolved cortex in mammal is called neocortex. It consists of the 6 layers. So this is the diagram cross section of the cerebral hemisphere, in which you can see outer darker color area is the gray matter or the gray matter of the cortex, which contains most of the neuronal cell bodies, and inner lighter color area is the white matter. So the neuronal cell body mostly are located in the outer part, that is the gray matter, but they may be embedded somewhere in the white matter as well, forming the nuclei. So this is the histological section of the cerebral cortex, in which you can see this darker color area which is granular in nature. This is the gray matter, which consists of neuronal cell bodies in addition to the dendrites, the axons and the glial cells, and this lighter color area is the white matter, which contains most of the fibers. So this is H and E stain section of the gray matter, showing the histology of the gray matter, in which you can see different neurons and their nuclei are present, and different nuclei of the neurons are present. These smaller ones are the glial cells, and this all the area is called neuropil, which contain the glial cells in addition to the neuronal cell bodies and the dendrites and the axons. So what are the different types of the cortex? Basically, the 90% of the more than 90% of the cerebral cortex is neocortex, and it is the 6-layered cortex referred to as the homogenic cortex. Paleocortex is the old type of the cortex, covers some parts of the base of the telencephalon, that is the olfactory area, and the cortex which is covering the hippocampal formation is called the archicortex. So these are the 3 different types of the cortex. More than 90% is the neocortex and remaining is paleo and archicortex. So in neocortex we have 6-layered organization of the cerebral cortex, and in case of the paleo and the archicortex we have 3 to 5 layered organization of the gray matter. So different types of the neurons which are present in cerebral cortex. The principally 2 types of the cells are present. One are the pyramidal cells and other are the stellate cells, also called the granular cells. The other cells which are present in addition to these 2 principal cell types are the cells of the Martinotti, the fusiform cells and the horizontal cells of Cajal. So first we will discuss the pyramidal cells. The pyramidal cells has pyramid shaped cell bodies. You can see in this diagram they have the shape like a pyramid. Their size is about 10 to 70 micron meters, and axons arises from the base and dendrite from the apex. So these are basically the dendrites which are originating from the apex of these pyramidal cells. They move upward superficially to the upper surface, where they make synapses with the dendrites of the cells of superficial layer, and their axons move downward and they form the main fiber tracts and outflow tracts of the cerebral cortex. Out of these different pyramidal cells, the largest of the pyramidal cells are called the Betz cells, having diameter of up to 100 micron meter, and they are present in the 5th layer of the cerebral cortex. So what are the functions of the pyramidal cell? They have an apical dendrite of pyramidal cell studded with the dendritic spines. These are the numerous small projections that are preferential sites of the synaptic contact. It has been suggested that the dendritic spines may be the site of synapses that are selectively modified as a result of the learning. Most or all pyramidal cells have axons, which is long, that leave the cortex to reach either other cortical areas or to various subcortical sites. So therefore the pyramidal cells are the principal output neuron, and this is again your MCQ as well, that the pyramidal cells of the cerebral cortex forming the principal output neurons. This is the diagram in which you can see this cell is the pyramidal cell. Again, this is the pyramidal cell having body just like a pyramid. From the apex, dendrite arises. This dendrite moves superficially to reach in the superficial layer, the first layer of the cerebral cortex, where it makes synaptic contact with the other cells, and then the axon form the major outflow tracts of the cerebral cortex, forming the efferent nerve fibers. So the different types of the cell in this diagram, you can see this is the pyramidal cell which is present. This is the fusiform cell which have many small dendrites and one axon moving towards the cerebral cortex. It's a superficial layer. Then the stellate are the granular cell which is present. Then you can see the horizontal cells of the Cajal and the cells of the Martinotti, and this is the stellate cells which is present. So now we describe the stellate cells, also called the granular cell. They are the principal interneurons of the cortex. Please remember, this is again your MCQ, that the principal interneuron of the cortex are the granular cell, also called the stellate cell. Please do not confuse stellate cells with the satellite cells. The satellite cells are present in the ganglia, that is the dorsal root ganglia and other ganglia. They are present outside the central nervous system. And the stellate cells are the cells which are present in the cerebral cortex. They are also called the granular cells, and they are the principal interneurons of the cortex. These come in wide assortment of the shape. They are typically smaller, less than 10 micrometer. They are also called the multipolar neurons. So you can see the different dendritic process which are coming out of the cell body, which gives a star-shaped appearance to this cell. That's why it is also called the stellate cells. Then the function of the stellate cell is they have a short axon of stellate cell that do not leave the cortex, and they are principal interneurons of the neocortex. Then these cells of the Martinotti. The cells of Martinotti are basically polygonal in shape. They have very short and few dendrites and have an axon which ascends upward superficially to the surface, where it bifurcates to run horizontally in most superficial layer, and it forms synapses with the pyramidal cells and also with the dendritic and axonal process of horizontal cells of Cajal. So fusiform cells are the another type of the cell. So in this diagram you can see this reddish color cell is the pyramidal cell. This small star-shaped cell is the stellate cell. This one is the cell of the Martinotti, and this is the fusiform cell. So it is a spindle-shaped cell oriented at a right angle to the cortex, and axons arises from the side of the cell body and descends into the white matter. Horizontal cells of the Cajal or the Reedsius Cajal cells are the next type of the cells which are present in the cerebral cortex, and their name is because of the name of the scientist who first described them. So these are small spindle-shaped cells oriented parallel to the surface. They are the least common cell types, found mostly in the superficial layer. Axon passes laterally to synapse with the dendrite of the pyramidal cells. So now we describe different layers of the neocortex differing in neuron morphology, size and population density. There are generally 6 layers in the neocortex. So please also remember these layers are not well demarcated. We just draw an imaginary line to discuss these 6 layers. So the first layer is the plexiform or the molecular layer. Second layer is the outer granular layer. Third layer is outer pyramidal cell layer. Fourth layer is inner granular layer. Fifth layer is inner pyramidal cells layer, and then the multiform layer, and next is the white matter. So these six neocortical layers are not equally prominent everywhere. They form granular and agranular layers at other sites. So this is again a beautiful diagram with the hematoxylin and eosine stain section. This is the layer 1, which is also called the plexiform layer. The layer 2, the outer granular layer. Layer 3, which is the outer pyramidal shape cell layer. Layer number 4, which is inner granular layer. Layer 5, which is inner pyramidal layer, and layer 6, which is multiform. Again, you can see in this section taken through the pyramidal shaped cell. So these are the pyramid shaped cells through which you can see different dendritic process are arising. These are smaller pyramidal shaped cells. Different pyramidal cells are present in different size and shapes. So this is another diagram in which you can see the small pyramidal cells are present with the dendrite, which is moving upward to synapse into the superficial cortex. So first we will describe the first layer, that is the plexiform layer. So this layer is the plexiform. This is most superficial layer, contains many dendritic and axonal synapses with one another. Sparse nuclei are seen that belongs to neuroglia, and occasional horizontal cells of Cajal are seen. So in this area, this is outer plexiform layer, in which the only cell type is the horizontal cell of Cajal in addition to neuroglia. Next is the outer granular cell layer. This area in which you can see small granule size cells are present. There is a dense population of small pyramidal cells and the stellate cell. These stellate cells are also called granule cells because they are very smaller in size and appear in H and E stage sections like a granule cell. They also contain various axon and dendritic connections. The third layer is the pyramidal cell layer, which is outer pyramidal cell layer. Moderate sized pyramidal cells predominate. So these all are the predominant pyramidal cells. Large pyramidal cells are present in further deeper layer, and the cells of the Martinotti are also present in this pyramidal cell layer. Next is the inner granular layer, which consists of densely packed stellate cells. So you can see this inner granular layer, which is densely packed by the stellate cells. Now, fifth layer is also called the ganglionic cell layer. It is also called inner pyramidal cell layer. Contain large pyramidal cells. Few stellate cells. Cells of Martinotti are also present. These huge pyramidal cells of motor cortex are present. So you can see these larger cells, also called Betz cells. They belong to the motor cortex. Hence the name the ganglionic cell layer. Their size reaches up to the 100 micrometer. Next is the last layer of the cerebral cortex, that is multiform cell layer. All morphological forms are found in this layer. That's why it's given the name multiform, because cells are of different shapes. Fusiform cells in deeper and other cells are present superficially in this layer. So these are the different 6-layered organization of the cell. Now look at this diagram. This is the first layer, which is called the plexiform layer. This is the inner granular layer, outer granular layer, outer pyramidal cell layer, inner granular layer, inner pyramidal or ganglionic cell layer, and the multiform layer. And next is the white matter. This is also the histological structure of the cerebral cortex, in which you can see this is the plexiform layer, then the different cells which are present in different layers. This is the layer 1, plexiform, layer 2, in which you can see the stellate shaped cells are present, layer 3, in which medium sized pyramidal cells are present in addition to some cells of the Martinotti. Layer 4, which is inner granular layer, which is heavily studded with the stellate or the granule cells, in addition to some cells of the Martinotti as well. This is the layer 5, which contains large pyramidal cells layer, also called the giant cells or the Betz cells. They form major outflow tract of the motor cortex. And then the next is the multiform layer, which contains different types of the cells which are present in different shapes as well. So here I complete my today's class. The references are the Basic Histology by Laikus and Siddiq, Histology Text and Atlas by Jan Quera, and Histology Text and Atlas by Michael H. Ross. Thank you very much for your attention for today's class. We will meet inshallah in the next class. Allah Hafiz.